So it's getting warm here in LA. Yep, it is starting to get warm. I like it, except for I would prefer to be at the beach, but we're not going to be able to do that right now. Calvin and Rome and Easton and Raylan and Neela and Kaya and Gus and Dominic and Vivian and Nona and Blue and Cassis. I'm so happy that you're here listening to this book, and everyone else who's listening. I'm really appreciative that you're taking the time to listen to these books, because it sure is fun reading them. I'm going to start reading in 1 second, so just everybody get ready and get comfortable, and we're going to let our imaginations go wild. Mirrna and the Marmots, Peggy Kapik. Mirrna and the Marmots, a story of 2 endangered species. Peggy Kapik, that's who wrote it. This is an introduction that's a little long. I'll go right to the story. Mirrna and the Marmots. On the southern tip of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, beautiful, there lived a small, lonely fairy. She was lonely because most of her friends, the crabs, starfish, and seabirds, had left the littered beaches and polluted waters. I don't blame them. Mirrna, for that was her name, knew the time had come for her to leave also. She would search for her family and other fairies who drifted north when children had ceased to believe in them a long time ago. It was a clear moonlit night when Mirrna began her journey. The shining ocean that stretched beneath her was bordered by dark rocks and forests. All night long, the little fairy flew north. At dawn, she found a warm log on a beach to sleep under. And she slept soundly until a sunbeam crept into her hiding place to wake her at midday. The shore was lonely and wild. A good place for fairies, she thought. Mirrna searched all afternoon for the secret signs that would mean that others like herself had passed that way, but there were none. When the first evening star appeared, Mirrna continued her flight. Shortly after, a storm came up and the strong winds blew her inland. Battered and exhausted, the little fairy crashed on a mountain slope. It was there that a group of marmots found her at sunrise, lying amid her shattered rainbow wings. It was not often that the marmots had company, and they watched their guest curiously for a while. Mirrna rested all morning, and when the sun became too warm, she crawled into the shade of large boulders where the marmots shared their dinner of tender leaves and flowers with her. Soon she was revived and began to shimmer and sparkle again, as fairies do. Mirrna carefully repaired each tear and rip in her lovely wings with a little sewing kit she carried in her bag. The magic thread soon blended into the soft colors, and the bruises faded. One warm summer night, Mirrna awoke to the sound of tiny voices. She crept forward in the warm darkness of the burrow, and there, by her fairy light, she saw that 3 black marmot young had been born. For the remainder of the night, Mirrna sang and crooned to the tiny babies, for all wild creatures understand fairy music. Oh, I wonder what it sounded like. As the babies grew, the burrow seemed crowded, and the little elf became restless, for the night breezes were calling her. One afternoon, she sat in the warm sunshine beside the entrance to think. It was the custom for fairy guests to leave behind small gifts, and Mirrna pondered over the best choice. She opened her little bag and carefully checked the contents. There were magic mirrors, tiny packages of seeds, small seashells full of wild oceans, pearls that glowed in the dark, and mystic silver charms. Suddenly, a great shadow blotted out the sunshine, and with a piercing whistle, the marmots raced for the entrance of their homes. Mirrna looked up to see a giant golden eagle just above her head, with his sharp talons reaching out for his dinner. With a flick of her long fingers, she tossed a handful of dazzling stars into his face. The dazed bird flew off, trying to remember why he had attacked a rock pile and why he felt so good about it. Mirrna smiled to herself, for she knew she had saved the lives of her friends. Now she knew which gift to leave. She would plant an instant-growing forest over the logged-out area on the mountainside so that the marmots could move about safely. Then she would plant a garden of huckleberry, Indian paintbrush, and all the other delicious plants that marmots love to eat. Humming a little tune, she went about her tasks, and by evening the planting was finished. It's tiger lily, huckleberry, and Indian paintbrush. This is for fairy use only, professional use only. I like the idea of an instant forest. When the first star appeared, Mirrna went into the burrow to say goodbye to her young friends. As she stroked their glossy fur, she saw on the back of the nursery 3 tiny mushrooms. With a racing heart, she read the signs. The first one told her that not long ago, fairies had passed that way. The second mushroom represented her family. The third mushroom pointed north with just a hint of a map on its cap. Mirrna was an excited, happy little fairy as she gathered up her belongings and flew off into the pink evening sky to join her people. The marmots silently watched her fade into the distance. They seemed to understand. The end. Mirrna and the Marmots. Mirrna and the Marmots. I liked Mirrna's hair. It looked like a little onion. Wasn't she cute? That was a sweet story. I love fairies, and I love Vancouver Island. I have friends who live up there, and I remember taking my sons, Gus and Jesse, Calvin, your daddy, and your Uncle Jesse, and I found it to be the most magical, beautiful place. I hope we can all visit there one time very soon. I love you all. I'll see you next time. Mwah.